This is
Make It Plain.
Make It Plain.
MIP
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson.
Make It Plain.
Get woke.
Need parts now? O'ReillyAuto.com offers in-store pickup, same-day home delivery, or next-day home shipping. Get more parts your way at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Let us welcome Mark, Joy, and Reena to the stage.
Boy. That was a lot, and frankly, very emotional for a few reasons. First of all, thank you for those far too generous words about me, because we're really here to celebrate the #1 book on the New York Times bestseller list. We're here to celebrate that book, which celebrates a family whose father was martyred for Jesus died for the sins of America. For the sins of the world. Reena's father was killed for the sins of this country. And we want to lift her up and lift her mother up, her whole family. First of all, so that when she sees this, so we can all know how much we love her. She can all know how much we love her. For Mrs. Myrlie Evers Williams, give her a big round of applause and a great thanks for her sacrifice. And just to make another connection on the video, the young lady singing lead is Ayanna Gregory, Dick and Lillian Gregory's youngest daughter. And as many of you know, the story of the relationship between Dick Gregory and Myrlie and Medgar Evers. And then at the very end of the video is a cameo by Lillian Gregory herself. That is Lillian Gregory's debut in a music video. That has never happened. And I'm thankful. I do have to acknowledge Reverend Sullivan is here, one of the co-authors, and Common Hymnal is here. For those of you coming to Beautiful Are the Feet tonight, Common Hymnal will perform Ceasefire Live here in this room. So there's a conspiracy to get me to come up here and sing it with them. I don't think I'm going to do that. But there's a lot of pressure for me to do that. And let me just say how sacred this space is and how sacred we all are in terms of being in this space and this institution and the urgency of it being able to go on and survive and continue to keep us grounded and rooted in the prophetic gospel, in African-centeredness, in Pan-Africanness, and not only, we see this in terms of who the legends who are amongst us, some of whom you saw in the video, Dr. Forbes, Bishop Daughtry, Reverend Wright and Reverend Jackson sitting right there. God bless them. This is This is the room where it happens. And lastly, today is the 59th anniversary of the martyrdom of El Hajj Malik al-Shabazz, Malcolm X Omawale. And I want to tell you something about Reena. Reena's kind of been the glue between all these families. The King family, the Shabazz family, the Evers family. We were upstairs talking about what today meant, and she immediately pulled out the phone to call Ilyasa because they're having their set. Matter of fact, Diana was going to be here to sing, but she's at the Shabazz Center. We can't all be everywhere, so we have to have representatives where we can have them. So Reena reached out to Ilyasa and the family, and so let's lift up the 3 M's as you talk about. In order, Medgar, Malcolm, and Martin. And so that when Ilyasa and the family and the Shabazz daughter see this, let's lift up their father's name and thank God for him. For he too. There is no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's own people. Amen?
Amen.
And so with that, Medgar and Myrlie, Joy and Reena, first of all, congratulations, Joy.
Thank you. Thank
the
you
book
so
is
much.
Wonderful.
I appreciate that.
It's a love story. And as Dr. Carruthers said earlier, I mean, there are a lot of books about history. What made you choose the approach of a love story?
Well, I want to first of all thank you for putting my TikTok up there. That's going to get me more followers, I hope. Please follow me on TikTok. And the song is incredible. And you know, what I do love about the Ceasefire song, Mark called me and he said, do you mind if I clip your TikTok post? Because I did a post about the song. And he said, do you mind if I put that up? And I was like, no, that's not a problem at all. You know, you can do it. What I love about what you did there, Mark, is that, you know, it is surprisingly hard to be a person calling for peace. It's surprisingly controversial to be against war. It's shockingly controversial to be on the side of people staying alive and of children not being bombed. It's weirdly controversial, but it's controversial. And so I think for all of those who were in it, and I love the cameos. I enjoy just seeing all of the luminaries that are in it. So thank you for doing that. And I also want to big up and hail up and large up the luminaries that are in this room. You know, we're standing at the feet of legends. We have Reverend Wright, Reverend Jackson, Bishop Daughtry, Leah Daughtry. We just have a wealth, Mama Iva. This is a wealth of legends. And I hope you all are taking that in, the people that you're around, to your left and to your right, are either current legends or future legends or people working on their legendhood, because this is just a room full of incredible power. So I just thank you all for being here, and I want to large up and big up every single one of you. And then I want to come to this lady right here. The reason that I did this as a love story is that, you know, I'm a history buff, I'm a super nerd, I love history, but not everybody necessarily approaches history with interest. And we're at a time when our history is being robbed from us. But everybody likes a love story, right? And I love a love story, especially a love story that was told to me by one of the lovers. And this is one that was told to me just in an off-camera conversation by Miss Myrlie herself. And I was sharing with the folks in the other room that, you know, I first met her in person in 2018 when she came to the NBC, the MSNBC studios in Burbank to do well, I guess it's not Burbank, in LA, to do an interview with me and Maxine Waters. The two of them were like a panel. And afterwards, we just got into a conversation. And she told me about how much she loved Medgar Myrlie Evers. And it was just an offhand conversation that she just launched into. And it stayed with me literally for years. Because I love my husband. Now, let's just be clear. But I have never met anybody who loves anybody like that woman loves that man. Honestly, I've never seen that in real life. And it's just, to me, it's something that when someone tells you about a love like that, it stays with you. And it just stayed with me for years until I had to figure out what to write about. And, you know, thank God for the love of their children, because it was Reena who allowed me and trusted me with her mom's story. Reena sat on those calls with me. Those interviews, Reena is making those calls happen, making sure that I could sit on the phone with her mom. She's so protective of her mom. And Van is the person who, in person, sat me with his mom at his house. And I was there eating with his family, with his children, with his cousin, doing mama's makeup so she could have her fabulous red lip. It was the Evers family and their love and their intense love for their mama that allowed me to be trusted with the most important story of their lives. So I just want to thank Reena, my sister, my big sister, who was making me eat. Like, she's a real big sister. She's like, you eating your food? Did you drink water? Are you hydrated? Like, she's a real sister. Like, and we have literally done this as a journey together. This has been 2.5, almost 3 years of me essentially living with this family in the research, in talking with mom, in, finding ways to get more information and going through the archives, them allowing me to sit in those archives and just live in the lives of these wonderful, incredible people. And so I just want to say this is, to me, a dedication to Miss Myrlie. I wrote and I said in the book it's a love story to her because I love her. And even as a journalist, you're not supposed to get too close to your subject, but I got close to this subject. Like, I'm all close up in this subject. I love this family. I love them. And we should love them because no one should have to sacrifice their loved one just for the right to vote and be called ma'am in a store. No one should have to give up the people they love just to be able to take their kids to the zoo or to the movies. It's an embarrassment. This country should be embarrassed that people had to die for black folk to sit downstairs in the movies. You know what I mean? For black kids to be able to go to school and have school books that weren't old and ripped up, to not have to go to school in shacks, to not have to see lynchings and pass by lynchings as Medgar Evers had to do. How embarrassing to create a country supposedly based on freedom, but deny freedom to the people who built it. How embarrassing. And we should be embarrassed. And yet, with all of that, look at how we loved. Look at what we created. Look at, through the sacrifices, what people still created. Families, neighbors, friends, relationships. That's what I found out doing this book. This was a love story about a whole community. And so I was just proud to tell it.
Well, I just want to say, if Mark, if you don't mind, I love y'all, okay? And it's not, sometimes we say love just to say love. But if you stop for a moment and really think about it before it comes out of your mouth, and you really feel it, then it does it just transfers in the proper way to a person really feeling the love that you're supposed to receive. And Joy, you have been loved since the first time you interviewed Mom. Because, and I know, Mark, we're probably off your question, but I just have to say this. My mother adopts people, all right? But she called me and told me that I had another sister. See, I'm an only girl, all right? And so I'll take sisters now, because brothers I have enough of. But when she told me after the interview, because I wasn't there in person that time, but when she called me and told me after the interview how she felt about you and how you were going to light up this world, okay, in 2018, look at God.
And we're both middle children, so we're the middle child. So
we are the middle child. Yeah, and they don't want to listen to us, but that's all right. That's all right. But Mark, you and I have had a relationship of respect, of movement, and I've been blessed to be with the families of Reverend Jackson. I've been blessed to be with the families of icons. when we were younger. So when you're younger, you forge bonds that you don't try to go ahead and up anybody. You forge bonds because you need somebody. And it's real. And what I'm feeling here is real. I told one young lady that I saw just a few minutes ago how her spirit lights up the room. I don't know her, but she came past me and I felt it. We are powerful people. We've been through a lot, still going through a lot. We'll continue to go through a lot because God is putting the fire up against our swords. And the love that came out of this video, Reverend Mark Thompson, it's on fire. Amen. I thank you, and I thank you all, but love is a continual theme, and if we focus on that, we will continue to do powerful things, continue to do the word and the will of God. So with that, I'm going to be quiet and turn it back over to Mark.
You can't be quiet. I'm just facilitating. Reena Evers, ladies and gentlemen, and for the record, so that we introduce her properly, we know and love her as the middle child, as the daughter, but she also is officially the executive director of the Medgar and Myrlie Evers Institute. And just like we have to support this institution, we must support all of our institutions that are keeping our ancestors' legacies alive. Next year will be the centennial of your father's birth. So get ready for that, ladies and gentlemen. Joy, speaking of love and Reena, you shared with us what happened, what Reena said when she gave you a tour of the house. Tell us that story, if you would.
So, in order to do this book, we really wanted to be in the spaces where it happened. We went to the Mississippi Delta, myself and my research team, two amazing researchers from Howard University. I don't know if there's any Howard University graduates. One of whom is from right here in Chicago, Cameron Nelson. He's not here. He's actually right now in Asia on a year-long academic program because he's a genius. But he is one of them. And so, yeah, one of these local Chicago young man. We went and we just kind of moved into Jackson. We rented a house and we just started going around. And Miss Reena introduced us to everybody. Here's the neighbor. This is the one who lived across the street. This is the one who lived next door. You can talk to this person. That person was just introducing us, making sure we could talk to everyone that we could find that knew and grew up with you and were friends with your mom and dad. And so in doing that, one of the things that we did sort of toward the end of our first trip there was we wanted to go to the house. And the house is actually a part of the National Park Service. It's actually it's a national park. And you can walk through the house, and there was a wonderful woman who gives you this incredible tour of it. But the day that we got there, I think the first time we got there, she wasn't there. And so we didn't get the official tour. The first time we went, Reena took us through. So we're like, well, just walk us through. This wasn't an official interview. It was just, we wanted to see it. We wanted to just absorb it. And I wanted to just make sure that I had the sense of it as I'm writing about it. And as we walk through it, it's a painful thing to have to do because, it was the mattress in Reena's bedroom that her dad was taken to the hospital on after he was shot. It was that home where they heard the gunshots. They were little kids. Reena was 8. You were an 8-year-old kid. Her big brother was 9, Daryl. Her little brother, Van, was 3. These were children. And so it's a childhood trauma And I felt really badly about asking Miss Reena to, relive it. But she walked us through the house, showed us the bedrooms, showed us where the guns were stashed. Because look, Daddy wasn't about that Dr. King life. He was about that other life. Let's just be clear. He said nonviolence is an option, like Mandela said. He said, I'll choose it if you choose it. I'm going to choose violence if you choose violence. Let's just be clear. I'm that type of Christian, so I can relate to that. I love Dr. King, but I'm just saying, I can relate. But as we came out of the house, I did ask, Miss Reena, I'm like, what is the feeling that you have in this house? The horrible questions journalists ask. What is the feeling this house brings back for you, being back here? And Reena Evers said, love. She said, what I take from this house is love. We had love in this house. Medgar Evers was the fun dad on the block. He was the one throwing the football with the boys on the block. He was the favorite dad on the block. Miss Myrlie was the one taking the neighbors' kids to school because once she had her third child, she was a stay-at-home mom, so she could pile all the kids in the car, take them to and from school. This was the family where they could hear the beautiful music coming out of the piano that Miss Myrlie was playing to, soothe her husband or to entertain her friend Joe across the street or her neighbor next door that was her pal. This is where they were slow dancing to like the cool songs of the 50s and 60s in the living room while the kids like peeked around the corner to watch their mom and dad's little romance. This is where, famous people like Dick Gregory were coming over. And the kids are like, oh, we get special dinner tonight. We get like special food because the mange people are coming. This is amazing. This was a house full of love. And that stayed with me as well. The idea that this place for Reena was not a house of horrors. It was a house of love. And I think that's important to remember, is that the people we idolize, the luminaries who are sitting in this room are people. They're people who fall in love and have kids and have friends and hang out and do all of the things. And we have to continue to humanize our heroes so that they're not alabaster statues somewhere off in the distance.
And I just want to, one very important thing, and people have asked before, did you know your dad? And for those of you who've ever had that question on your head about my father, I respond to you. Take a moment. Where were you at 8 years of age? Do you remember at 8 years of age? And I have wonderful memories, along with terrible memories of my father, but of my family. And my father was a jokester, very, very deep jokester to my mother and us. And he was funny, and he was humorous, and he was serious, deadly serious about what his purpose in life was. And he did not deter from it, no matter how many times my mother asked him not to, because she was human, she was his wife, and they were their loves. And she asked, and Joy knows this, and Joy says it so well, that what about us? What about me? What about our children? Don't you want to be here for us? Can't you take a 9-to-5 job? And Joy, because you tell it so well, how did Dad reply?
He said, I'm doing this because of you. I'm doing it because I love you. And that is a higher kind of love, right? It's a thing where, of course, I love my family. I don't want to die. I want to be here. I want to be here for you, but I have to do this, is what he would tell her. I have to do this because this place isn't good enough for you. This city, this state isn't good enough for you. I have to make it good enough. And he loved his family so much that he was willing to fight with his wife over doing the right thing. And by the way, I feel like it's important that we don't read Miss Myrlie's reluctance as weakness, because we affirm that we know Michelle Obama has been very honest about her doubts about Barack Obama running for president. Alma Powell forbade Colin Powell from running for president. You know, I had friends who didn't want to vote for Barack Obama. They were afraid he would get killed. And they wouldn't vote for him because they were like, we're not going to put a black man in a position of being killed. That's a real fear that's legitimate. And when you're a mom, your fierce love is to protect your family, to protect your babies. And you need your husband to be there for your kids. And so what they had was a complicated, real relationship. This is a real relationship. It's not a relationship that's fictional. And the complexities of it are real. And her reluctance was real and makes sense. They were living in Mississippi, the most dangerous place to be black in America, where you could literally be lynched for looking at a white person wrong. And people were every day, every day, every day. For trying to desegregate a college, you could be lynched. I mean, it was just the most dangerous place to be alive as a black person. So I think, you know, one of the things that I was hoping to do with the book is to humanize this couple and to show you what it would be like to just be ordinary people in this extraordinary, awful situation that all black people were in at that time. But only some chose that path of being extraordinary in those circumstances. And Medgar Evers was one of them.
But you also, when I think about my mom and I think about that conversation, which of course as kids, if they were going to have a heated conversation, the doors were closed. You did not really know where your parents were, except for they loved you and that they were there for you. But my mother, showing the type of person that my father revered and wanted, turned to him and said, my father turned to her and said, you need to choose. You need to choose whether you are with me or not. And I'm glad I'm part of both of them because it shows the strength, the dedication, and the fortitude to move forward no matter if part of the love is fractured because you are trying to make a difference. But she turned to him and then being her strong self said, I'll let you know when I know. And she looked at me when she told me that story and just kind of laughed. She goes, but I wasn't going anywhere because I loved that man. And so love is forever the strong steel theme that goes throughout life.
Attention, everyone! Wayfair's Black Friday preview sale is here early. Right now, score up to 70% off everything home at Wayfair, shipped in time for the holidays. Shop early Black Friday deals now at wayfair.com.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
I asked some years ago, I asked Martin III the question I'm about to ask you. I asked Martin, when did you realize, or how old were you, Martin, when you realized who your father really was? Not just your father, but one of the greatest men that ever lived. I'm going to ask you the same question. When did you come to the realization, not only your father, but your mother were real and historic people in the world? And when you realized that, how did it impact you?
You know, I knew Dad was somebody because of all the movements through the home, through being on television but being blacked out. I wanted to go to jail with him. My mother wouldn't let me. So I knew that there was a powerful movement going on, but to realize that my parents, my father in particular at that time, was considered powerful. As a child, I did not. He was powerful to me. You know, he was my daddy. But as we moved to California, as my mother moved us to California, I knew that there was a lot going on because California, the land of gold and honey, wasn't necessarily the land of gold and honey when we got up there. We still had threats, we still had drive-bys, and for those of you who think drive-bys just started 20 years ago, it did not. And so that's when I started to realize, at the age of 11, truly, the power of what he was doing and what my mom is continuing, and what we have to do to remember all the lessons that he gave us and all the love that he gave us, and that we have to continue moving that. It still doesn't hit you as much until you get to different conferences, conventions, and you're around the other children. And Yolanda King and Attila Shabazz, Ambassador Shabazz, we were very tight. And Martin, and we said we're in a club that nobody needs to join. And too many people are members now. Too many people are members. But getting the cameras up in your face and all, you start to hit it, but not until I started reading sincerely my mother's book, For Us the Living, did it finally hit into my gut. And forever being proud of them and others. Yeah.
For the record, too, how's Mom?
My mother, as she says, she's kicking but not high. So she's something else. Let me just say that. She's powerful, she's funny, all the things that we've said about my father. And, you know, life has challenges. At 91, she has some challenges, but she's still kicking, just not as high.
I don't think I've ever heard you. You can't talk like your mom, can you? Do you know how to, can you speak like her? Have you ever tried to do that? Do you do that? Because we all know how Myrlie Evers speaks, and it's very
You know, my mom used to get so upset at us.
Really?
Because my brothers and I would mimic her.
Really?
When she would go around and do something, and so, oh gosh, she's gonna kill me. We'll just go, I'm Myrlie Evers Williams. And she would hear, and she goes, I don't sound like that. Oh yes, you do. So, yeah.
That's wonderful.
But, you know, she has such a musical voice, and I asked her, and you didn't ask this, but I asked her, I said, Mom, okay, you're getting up here and you're speaking. Where are your notes? What notes do you want me to get for you? She goes, huh? I'm like, okay. She goes, just give me materials to read. Just give me materials to read. Just give me materials to read. And it was the hardest thing for her to have to craft the words she was going to say for President Barack Obama's second inaugural. That was the hardest thing, because she doesn't write things down. And I'm saying, what's your gift? Because you're something. And she goes, I don't know. Then she tells me, she goes, before I step out, I ask God to put the words in my mouth. And she said, that's the best advice for anybody. So we ask God to do a lot of things, but we need to ask God to put the true words in our mouth to come out.
Joy, as you write in the book, these two, it was love at first sight, was it not?
It was. And I've told this story a bunch of times, but I'm going to tell it again. It was, Myrlie Louise Beasley was raised by Annie McCain Beasley, her grandmother, and her aunt, whose name is also Myrlie, in rural Vicksburg, Mississippi. But they were very proper ladies, teachers, educators. And when they sent their little 17-year-old baby off to Alcorn College, at the time it was now Alcorn State University, they said there are 3 types of men you are to stay away from: upperclassmen, football players, and those World War II veterans. Stay away from them. Too worldly. Medgar Evers was all 3 of those. So it was problematic. They met on her very first day, her first hour on the campus, and he's, the 2-a-days, all the football players are practicing, and they're sizing up the girls, they're all trying to pick out which one they're going to try to chat to, and, he comes up to her with his chat, and his chat is an unusual chat. It's, you shouldn't be leaning on that pole, you're going to get electrocuted. So he cares, message, I care, I want you to get electrocuted. And she kind of does her Veronica Lake, she has her, you remember Fonnie Willis's silk press? Think about that, silk press. and also a little of that attitude. We love Fonnie. That's my president, don't mess with her. And she does her hair flip, her Veronica Lake hair flip, and it's like, I'll be all right. And she tries to blow him up, and she's thinking, ooh, he's kind of fine. So they have this really incredible, and I love this part of the book because it's about the courtship, which was this intellectual courtship that they had, because he's 7 years older than her. He knows 17 to get you 20, even in 1950. He's like, she's a little young. And he's this, super nerd. He's interested in the world. He's, obsessed with the, revolutionary movements and the anti-colonial movements in Africa. And he's talking to her about that. And she's studying up to make sure that she's up on things so she can talk to him, because she wants to keep talking to him. He pretends that he likes the classical music she's playing on the piano, even though he really doesn't, but he wants to listen to her play the piano. And they have this whole kind of incredible romance where they're sort of circling each other as 2 people who obviously have an interest, but nothing happens until he can finally convince Mama Beasley and Aunt Myrlie that he should be able to date her. And he does this whole courtship of them where he has to convince them that he's the right guy for their little girl. And it takes a while and some lobbying, but he's so charming. And to Ms. Reena's point, he's so funny and he's so respectful, that they finally do give in. So the first part of the book, I really spent a lot of time, and I just wanted to live in the romance. The romance is really fun. That's the fun part of the book, because you're really seeing 2 people, even in 1950s Mississippi, being able to find love and find joy and find happiness and find fun. Medgar Evers loved to tease Myrlie. He would call her Myrlie Mae just to make her mad. He would say stuff just to piss her off. She says up, he says it's down. He says left, he says it's right. And it's just constantly just sort of bickering back and forth. They're like moonlighting. It's like moonlighting. Did you guys watch Moonlighting? So they have this great relationship that it's actually a lot of fun, and it was a lot of fun to write about. That was the most fun part of it. And when Miss Myrlie tells these stories, and she is a hoot, by the way. She is a hoot. We were all just together in Pomona, and she is hilarious. But she loves talking about him. And she really enjoyed, I think that was the part that she really enjoyed talking about, because she will go on and on about all the little, things that they went through, all their little bickerings, all their little fun. And I think that was the part of her life where she was, the most joyful, because she had her man and she loved her man. She just wanted him to be an insurance salesman. And I don't know why he just did not want to comply.
Has talking with Joy and talking in general, your mom, talking about the love affair and the happy and the joyous times, over the years, have you seen that almost be therapeutic for her from the trauma?
Oh, it's therapeutic for all of us. You know, at one point, people, that's all they talked about was June 12th, 1963. Right. That's all. Right. That's, you know, in the maybe history books, there were 3 lines. But my mom always talked about my dad. And she still, if you ask her, oh, that was the love of my life. He's still the love of my life. Now, I tell her, you know what? You got lucky. Okay, you got blessed, you got lucky. Because actually she's been married twice. And her second husband, she loves him dearly, Walter E. Williams. And he's a civil rights activist of his own in San Pedro, California, a longshoreman. Broke the color lines there. But he was the one that pursued her because she didn't want anybody else. He pursued her and he said to her, I watched you on television the day after. And she had done an interview with Dan Rather. And he said, I need to take care of her and those children. So blessed, because powerful man of his own, he knew what he was coming into, and he knew how to step into it. And he always talked about my father. He always, because my brother, Van, was still very young. So he always wanted to make sure that all of us understood where his place was and where Dad's place was. So blessed by that.
And can I just say one quick thing is that one of the things that, you know, in doing the research for the book and in talking to Miss Myrlie and in interviewing her friends and everything, I hope when you all read the book, you will, as I did, just fall in love with Daryl, with your brother, your big brother. He has a special place in my heart in this book. I probably cried the most writing about Daryl. When I think about him, he's the one who will bring me to tears. Because that's the other piece, I think, of the story that people don't understand is how a child reacts to losing a parent. I mean, I lost my mother very young. My brother was 12. I was 17. My sister was 18 when our mom died. And I'm still not over it, you know, and I'm not going to say my age. Y'all can Google that on Wikipedia. Look it up yourself. But, I mean, the trauma of a child, of children, you know, is another theme that I hope I brought out in this story too, because these were kids. And, you know, asking the question of somebody, did they know their father? Of course, a little kid. First of all, you're daddy's little girl. So you're the baby girl. But Daryl, your brother, was daddy's little man. He was his little football player. And the thing I love about, one of the many things I love about, he's the one who's on the cover, that famous ebony cover where you can see this little boy weeping at the funeral. That's Daryl, who unfortunately is no longer with us. And his middle name is one of my favorite things about him. His middle name was Kenyatta. Now think about how pro-black you had to name your child Kenyatta in 1952. And he named him after Jomo Kenyatta because he was like obsessed with the liberation movement in Kenya. And Jomo Kenyatta is the leader of that movement. So he literally was like, he's like a black revolutionary in the 50s. He's like, I want to name my child Kenyatta. And one of my favorite stories in the book is the reaction of Miss Myrlie, which she actually told me in person when we did the interview in LA. She said, not on my watch. You're not naming a black child in Mississippi Kenyatta. You're never going to make it to adulthood. Are you insane? And so when the nurses came around to do the birth certificate, she said, just put Kenyatta in the middle. Put Daryl first. This man driving me crazy. But she she tucked the Kenyatta in the middle. But his name was still Kenyatta, which is actually really revolutionary for a black young man from Mississippi.
No question. We're almost out of time, but I want to ask this. So you and I conspired and collaborated 11 years ago. Your mother came on my show. And this was the 50th commemoration of your father's martyrdom. And we were just going to speak pretty generally. And then Myrlie Evers hauls off and says, Mark, I'm going to tell you something I've never said publicly before. And I was like, oh, okay, so I'm bracing. I have no idea what this is. And I'm looking for your number to text you. I don't know, should your mom, is about to tell me something we need to, and I don't know what she's going to tell me. And Myrlie Evers told me about Roy Wilkins and Gloucester Curran sitting on her living room sofa when they asked for more protection for your father, and them telling her, no, we're not protecting.
It's in writing.
Yeah, we're not protecting Medgar. Now, she also shared that in a closed NAACP board meeting under the then President Ben Jealous, the NAACP board formally apologized to your mother for allowing that security not to be given to your father. And then she went in.
Wait, get the quote right though, Mark. They said, we have better things to do with our money.
That's right. That's exactly what they said. That's exactly. And so there's some atonement and spiritual reparation in all of these types of situations that happen. But what happened was, Joy at that time was with the griot. This is before Joy Reid becoming the first and only black woman every night on prime time. And I'm calling to say, Joy, Myrlie Evers just said this. And we still weren't doing, when we were doing radio and stuff like that, but we still weren't doing videos. And then we weren't doing Zoom yet. Right. So all I had was the audio. And I said, Joy, you got to know about, and Joyce dropped everything and put the audio up on the front page of the griot. And it went viral because nobody had ever heard what had happened at the, and then she went on to say how there was some jealousy and resentment. Mm-hmm. And either of you can talk about this story. Medgar had been talking to Dr. King. And Dr. King was stealing some of the NAACP's shine, and he didn't like that. And I think the other quote was, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. King has Alabama, Mississippi's ours. Something like that.
You mean that's what Roy Wilkins said?
That's what Roy.
Okay, yes,
and
because that wasn't the case.
He can't come take Jackson and everything, all the cities from us.
See, the thing, and I won't be long, but the thing is, one thing about Joy's book is that she tells you the history, which I love. But I don't know how many of you know about COFO, okay? So it's organizations, NAACP, SCLC, CORE, that got together and said, we don't want to be in silos. We want to work together across the South at that point. Reverend Jackson was there, Dr. King, Reverend Abernathy. They came, they worked together, and the lead organization, civil rights organization at that time, the NAACP, wanted to be the lead and wanted to be the only lead in the civil rights movement. Now I'm going to say something. God knows how to work you together. People also know how to pull you apart. And people also know how to rewrite stories to the way that they want it to be. So all of my brothers and sisters in the movement, doesn't matter what race you are, ethnic background you are, as long as it's for equality, integrity, and humanity for all. That's what we have to move towards, and not go later on in years to highlight other leaders that you would not even allow to be in. Highlight them all, because they all work together.
Amen.
And the testimony, in spite of that story, your mother still was called and led the organization.
Without pay.
And by the
Chair.
way, let's hail up the Black Eagle, Joe Madison, who was the
Yes.
final interview I did for this book, who is the reason and who talked Miss Myrlie into running for board chair. She wouldn't have done it. He went as they were with Walt. They were all three standing in Arlington National Cemetery, which every year it was a pilgrimage that Miss Myrlie would take with her family. They're all standing there at the gravesite, and it was Joe Madison who talked Miss Myrlie into leading the NAACP. He said, "We need you." The NAACP was at a difficult place financially and with all sorts of scandals, et cetera, and he talked her into it. And he does not get enough credit either for being a great civil rights leader himself.
But I also have to uplift my auntie Hazel Dukes.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay? A powerful woman within her own right. Dr. Higginbotham, several people came together because my mother said no. And then she said yes. And then her children later on came together and said, no, it's time for you to be out. Because we want, you talked about Daryl, trauma hits you. Trauma never leaves you. You have to learn how to either push it to the side, you have to learn how to hit it face on, because it's going to hit you no matter what. But with Daryl, it hit hard, very, very hard. And Daryl told Mom, I don't want to lose another parent at this time. So, not to say that she's not in the movement, because you know she's always in the movement. But we needed to save her so we could still have her.
Before we go, Joy, you are beloved in this room. For what you do every night, and speaking of what's even happening tonight, I have some instructions for everybody. Now, but we also know the courage it took, and it is taking, for you to take some of the stands. You take no one in, I mean, you on the mainstream channel, but you ain't mainstream. And you are even dealing with this situation that's going on now, and even the stance you took on your TikTok we just saw. We want to make sure, on behalf of everyone here, are you okay? And what do we need to do, if necessary, to protect you and have your back, sister?
I appreciate that. And where's the sister who said she was praying for me? I'm getting so many prayers. Oh, there we are. There she is right there. Thank you, sister. Like, I have gotten so many, I have so many prayer vigils going on for me. I can literally feel them even before I meet those who are praying for me, and this sister came forward to me and gave me a word on this evening. So I feel the prayers, I can feel the support. I appreciate everyone who watches the show. Look, DVR the show, because look, numbers are what they really care about. So if y'all are watching, if you continue to support the readout and you watch us, it's not just me, it is a team of about 20, more or less about 20 of us, including all our tech crew and everything. It's like 60 people who, you know, we want to keep employed. We want them all to work. And my team is wonderful. We are the most diverse team, racially diverse team in prime time, and I maintain that in every show that I'm on. We have representation of every community, and we want to always maintain that. I've been very deliberate and very particularly about trying to bring more black men into the business on this side, on the producing side. I will note that Cameron's not here tonight. His parents, when I come back in April, are going to be here. Cameron Nelson, who was one of the researchers I mentioned on the book, I hired him for the readout after he did his research work on the book. I brought him in. He was not a TV person, but I believed in him enough to say we're going to bring him in because we do have a diversity problem still in this business. We do not have enough people of color, and we definitely don't have enough black men who are producing. And so, you know, if you know of people who are looking and want to be in the business, send them my way, because we're always trying to increase diversity and increase opportunity. So I just appreciate everybody. Keep praying for me. I take all prayers. And I'll take them in anything. Hindu, Muslim, Jewish prayers. I'll take Christian prayers. Give me everything. Give it all to me. Every denomination. Give it all to me.
And she means that, y'all. You know, she's always looking for talent and promoting talent. So if there are those who are interested. Also, Lansley's Mama Ava comes up for a special presentation, and we get ready to close. Reena, we love you dearly, too.
Yes, yes we do.
And we can never know what you feel like. We can only thank you for sharing your parents with us.
Yes, yes.
You didn't have them all to yourself because
Yes.
they were with us. Mm-hmm. And we're thankful for you being here with us and continuing their legacy, okay?
Yes.
We love you, Reena.
We love you back.
Yes.
We love you back.
All right.
And we love you, Mark. Oh, no, you're not going to leave yourself out. I want y'all to please hail up and big up and large up the Reverend Mark Thompson, a stalwart, a fighter, a champion for our people, and my friend, we love you. Thank you.
Now, just before Mama Ava comes, I just have a little bit of instruction. We love the show, and if we love it like we say we do, we have to let her get to it. And I know everybody wants to see Joy as we leave and take pictures. I'm afraid that's not going to be possible. So before anyone departs and moves at the closing, please allow us to get her out and get to the car so she can go be on the air, because she actually starts with Chicago time. You start an hour earlier at 6 o'clock, so we need to get her on the air. And with that, let's turn this back over and let's give Mama Ava a round of applause for continuing to be the flame. Continuing to be the flame for the Proctor Conference. And if we believe what we say we believe, and we believe in our ancestry, we know love never dies and love lives on in our work. And part of our work now is to purchase and encourage others to purchase this book, so that this book about black love and black history and black ancestry and black spirituality and black people remains #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. Amen. Dr. Carruthers.
If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Need parts now? O'ReillyAuto.com offers in-store pickup, same-day home delivery, or next-day home shipping. Get more parts your way at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
And just to let you know that we honor you today, Joy Reid, by gifting you with a symbol of the revolution, a revolution that would not be possible without certain women. So we honor the work of your hands. We honor the power of your voice. We honor your courage. We honor your yes to truth-telling every time you get behind a mic or behind a camera or you pick up a pen. We pray that this Haitian maroon will wash over you anew every time you view it with the perseverance and the love and the ferocity. We pray that this Haitian maroon will remind you that you have a great cloud of witnesses, revolutionary freedom fighters, your Auntie Dolly and your mother, hand in hand with Mama Iva Carruthers and Reena, praying for you. We thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. This is gorgeous. Thank you.
Joy, we also, I don't know if you've ever read the Book of Joy.
Oh my goodness.
This is a book that I suggest everyone get. It is a book of a conversation, the last conversation on this side between the Dalai Lama and Bishop Tutu. The name of it is the Book of Joy.
I love it.
This book is as powerful as the book that you have written. It will transform your life. And what I remember most about this book is the way they departed from one another, knowing that would be the last time they would see each other. But it's that kind of transcendental love that made the difference. We love you. We thank you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, this is wonderful. I treasure this. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Joy Reid, ladies and gentlemen. Give Joy Reid a round of applause. Give Reena Evers a round of applause. I'm not hot. There we go. Joy Reid, Reena Evers. Give them a big round of applause. Thanks for getting woke and listening to Make It Plain. As always, perform an act of kindness on behalf of an elder or young person. Write a letter to a sister or brother who just so happens to find her or himself incarcerated. Offer libations to the ancestors upon whose sturdy shoulders we all now stand. And above all, give thanks to the God of your understanding by whatever name you call her and him. All God asks of us is that we give each other love. Thanks for giving MIP love. And please remember to subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. If all hearts and minds are clear, it has been made plain.